Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Bear, and I just want to share my testimony with everybody out there. I want to let you know a little bit about what I went through in my life. Hopefully, someone might be able to find healing as a result of hearing my testimony. I had a very chaotic upbringing. My life was very um, mirrored with violence as I grew up. My mom left my dad at a very young age. I think I might have been less than 2 years old when she left my dad. But my mom really had a very huge anger towards my dad. And as a result, for some reason, I ended up having the anger displayed on me as I was growing up. My mom was an alcoholic. My dad was an alcoholic. They lived an alcoholic lifestyle all their life. And as I was going through life, I found that when I was really, really young, my mom would take out her anger quite heavily on me. There was times that I was abused. I had my hand burnt. I had my head burnt. I had my seat burnt, my bum burnt. I was traumatized in different ways by my mom. And it was a really traumatic thing. It was hard for me to heal from all of that because I really didn't believe that a mother should ever do that to their child. And I felt that by having this happen, that I was an unwanted, unloved child. And I grew up with that mindset that I was an unwanted and an unloved child. So I kept a lot of bitterness inside of me, and I kept it in there for a long period of time. My mom went from man to man in a relationship. She would go through a relationship. She would be with another man, and I would have to call him dad. And every man would be a new dad in a new place in a new community, and it was really hard for me. I didn't want to call any of them dad, and I got sick and tired of calling anybody dad. But it seemed like that's just the way I had to be. So my mom would travel around. Then she moved to Saskatoon. I think I was 6 years old when she moved to Saskatoon. And I ended up going to Henry Kelsey School in Saskatoon at 6 years old. And it was a very good experience, but I was even abused by the kids there. I had such a anger and such a hatred in my life that I didn't do things normally. I remember one time I had a pair of glasses and I didn't like the way they looked. And so I took them and I put them on the road and I watched a vehicle run over them. And I almost jumped for joy when the vehicle ran over them. I thought, oh, that is so beautiful. I couldn't believe a vehicle would actually run over my glasses. And I thought that was just totally awesome. I also had emotional outbursts. My mom lived with a man that was a painter, and they got along for a while, and then all of a sudden, life started to change. They broke up, and then my mom lived a homeless life. She actually went from place to place. Then she moved to a place on Warman Road. I went to North Park School, and I experienced more abuse. I grew up my last name was Saint Germain, and I used to be called Saint Bernard, and a lot of the kids would call me Saint Bernard. Hey, here comes Saint Bernard, and I'd feel very intimidated. I didn't like it. So it was really traumatizing. So I grew up with all of that: emotional abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse from my mom and from other people. Bullying was part of my life. Violence at every angle was part of my life. And so I got into, as I grew older, I got into drinking. But I didn't drink too much, just a little bit. I started smoking at a young age. I was only 6 years old when I started smoking, but I didn't know how to smoke. So when I started smoking, I go, and I thought that was cool. But you see, it wasn't cool. And so it wasn't how you're supposed to smoke. But I smoked like that because I thought that was the way it was supposed to be. Then I ended up in Rancherlo. I was about 13 years old when I ended up in Rancherlo. And one day, one of the boys said, Andrew, you want to smoke? And I said, sure. So I took the smoke and I started smoking. And I started letting the smoke go. But I'll tell you something, after a while, people were saying, well, what are you smoking like that for? Why are you wasting a cigarette? And one of the teachers says, here, I'll teach you how to inhale. And one of the staff at the Ranch Earl literally spent a whole day teaching me how to inhale. I thought, wow. They actually had so much interest in me that they would teach me how to inhale cigarettes. That was my starting point. While I was in Ranchola, I learned how to drink, I learned how to use drugs, I learned how to sniff solvents. I got involved with all of that stuff, and all of those things started to cover up and mask many of the emotions that I had in my life, and some of the hurt, some of the pain that was in my life. And every time I thought about how useless I was, how invaluable I was, how I was destined to failure, how I would never make it in life, how that my life was just marred by hatred and anger and bitterness, and how one day I'd rot and burn in hell. I just learned all of that growing up, and I learned that I was just an evil man, an evil boy, and I tried to run from all that. Suicide was on the forefront. I didn't want to commit suicide, but I didn't know another alternative. I didn't want to take my life, but I didn't want to feel the pain that was in my life. And so I was trying to run from all of these things. And my life was very, very chaotic. Boy, there's some days that I didn't even want to wake up. But some days I would wake up with a hoot or a drink or a little bit of drugs just to get me through the day. So that was what the beginning of my life up into Ranch Earl. After I left Ranch Earl when I was 16 years old, I got involved with street crime. I started breaking into houses. I got charged with breaking into houses. I got charged with theft under 300, I think it was, or 250 in that area. I went into a Bay department store, and I just took a duffel bag and I put it over my shoulder, and I started filling it up with everything from shorts and socks and shoes and pants and everything I could think of, put it into the duffel bag, and then I walked out. And when people asked me, they said, well, they tapped me on the shoulder and they said, excuse me, Bay Security, you're going to have to come with us. And I ended up going to jail. I ended up going to the Calgary Remand Center at 16 years old. Back then, at 16 years old, you were a man. And so you had to pay the manly penalty for breaking into a house or breaking into stealing from a store. You couldn't go under a youth offender or a young offender anymore. Not back then. So anyway, I ended up in jail with the real big men. And as a result, they asked me, it says, hey, man, what you in here for? And I didn't want to tell them I just stole $250 worth of stuff. So I thought to myself, what's a tough crime? What's a tough crime? I didn't know what a tough crime was. So I told them, rape. I wasn't in there for rape, but I wanted to be tough, and I figured that was a tough crime. And so I told them I was in there for rape, and they all wanted to attack me. They always wanted to beat me up. And I said, listen, I'm not in for rape. And the guards came in and says, why are you picking on Andrew Bear? And they said, well, we don't want no rapist around. He's not in for rape. All he did was steal some stuff from the Bay. And man, that really it took my self-esteem and it shot it down, because I wish they would have said something really, really deadly that I did, so that I could actually look good in my peers' eyes. And you see, I spent a lot of years wanting to do that, wanting to look good in my peers' eyes. At a young age, I started hanging around with people on the streets, started getting involved with drugs, started getting with drug activity. I ended up in street action in Regina. I ended up living on the streets in Regina. Then I ended up living on the streets in Vancouver, in Winnipeg, in Toronto. I ended up in gang activity. And my life started to go to the place where it was so negative. I started to hate everybody. I wanted to hurt everybody. I wanted to cause pain to everybody. I just wanted to be this person that was so violent that people were scared of me. Inside, I wasn't. Inside, I was a loving man. Inside, I had all kinds of love, but I didn't want to show that love because I didn't feel that love myself. So why should anybody else feel the love? If I can't feel it, why should they feel it? So I didn't share that love. And I'll tell you, as a result, it really, really traumatized me. For many, many years, I lived in hate. I lived in bitterness. I lived in anger. I was full of drugs, full of anger, full of violence. I was in street activity, gang activity. I was involved with many, many gangs over the years. And trying to get out of that gang activity wasn't easy. I had to do a lot of, I'll be honest with you, if I didn't go to the penitentiary, I probably would have died a gangster. Or I would have died living on the streets. Or I would have died living a drug-addicted lifestyle. But somehow I was released from all of that by going to the penitentiary. I learned a new lifestyle in the penitentiary. I learned a survival lifestyle that I had to survive. I had to do things that would make people be impressed with me, that would make me like me. Things like I had to talk back to guards. I had to mouth people off. I had to make people think I was a tough guy. But really inside I wasn't a tough guy. Inside I was really, really a teddy bear. I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted to be cared for. But I didn't want to show that kind of image, because if I showed that kind of image, people would take advantage of me. So I spent a long time trying to impress people and trying to be something I really wasn't. So I grew up like that. I grew up with all of those behaviors inside of me, covering them all with alcohol, covering them all with drugs, covering them all. And the pain was so deep. It was so deep. I didn't think there was any hope. You know, one day I'm in the penitentiary, and I remember the preacher come looking for people to come to church, and I said, well, I'll take a look, I'll take a shot, I'll see what it's all about, because I love music. And I thought, well, maybe they'll let me play the guitar. They didn't let me play the guitar, but they let me sing some of the songs with the other people, and I kind of felt that was pretty good, because some of the songs were pretty good, actually. And then they showed me a little bit about godly living, about praying, about reading the Bible, about doing all these things. And it started to make a difference in my life. I had a lot of people over the years come to my support, and I never underestimate any of them. I had people from the Christian realm, and I had people from the native spirituality realm that came to my rescue and helped me so many times. And I am so grateful for every single one that has helped me out there. They helped to shape who I am today. They gave me purpose. They gave me a foundation, which is so important. You know, today I'm able to walk into communities all over Canada, and I have a huge respect from the community, and I give a huge respect back to the community. You know, and I teach from life experience. I've gone through hate. I've gone through bitterness. I've felt the pain in my life. I've lived an alcoholic lifestyle. I lived a drug alcohol lifestyle. I lived a life that I spent 15 years in the penitentiary, convicted of second-degree murder. I shouldn't have gone to the penitentiary for that, but I did because I was a follower. I wanted to follow other people and be like other people. Somebody said, go ahead, we have to kill this guy. And I didn't want to kill nobody. No, I didn't want to kill nobody, but I ended up participating. And as a participator, I ended up doing what I shouldn't have done. You know, today, I live my life a little bit differently, because today I search for God in my life. I speak with God. I talk with God. Every day I have to have God in my life, because God is my only hope. He's my anchor. He's my refuge. And today, you know, I thank God that He's made a difference in my life, and He's helped me and made me and shaped me to be a brand new person that's able to go out into the community and help people no matter how bad they are. I don't look at people and say, well, you're too bad, I can't help you. I look at people and say, listen, if I did it, if I got through this, you can go through this too. You can make it through this. And I want to help everybody I can out there. I want to be a blessing to so many. I don't know how many days, months, weeks, years that I have on this earth, but I want to be able to help as many people as I can, to be able to have a healthy lifestyle, to be able to be blessed, to be able to know that there's hope. Because for me, there was absolutely no hope. And today, I know there's hope. Today, I know that I have extreme hope. And I have, thank God, that He stuck with me, that He didn't let me down, that He didn't turn His back on me. You know, I've been in so many communities over the last 15 years doing workshops, and I thank God for every community that I went into. And I tell you something, the healing through music. I've been blessed to do some music. I'm going to do a song just for you really quickly before we close. Um, I've been blessed to do music all over Canada. This is my guitar, by the way. It's the one I take on the road, and I love this guitar. It's got a beautiful sound to it, and so I like to just give you one verse of a song that I do on the road. And a lot of my works. I'm only going to do one verse now. I hear the train a-comin', it's rolling round the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. Well, I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on, and that train keeps rolling on down the San Antonio. Well, when I was a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die, and that train keeps rolling. I hang my head and I cry. Johnny Cash. And I bring that kind of music to all of my communities across Canada because I really believe that healing through music is a powerful thing. I believe that, by the way, just to let you know about my scarf that I have here, these are all horses. I have a lot of friends that ride horses. I got a